Hello, hi, I'm Cryptic Hybrid and this is Colors of Fate. Now, Colors of Fate is a visual novel in which we follow the life, the tragedies and the adventures of a girl called Melia. Now, this is a demo version of Colors of Fate. The full release is in development, but we do have a demo out. It looks lovely, so we're gonna check it out together. New game. Alright, this game contains mature topics such as death, kidnapping, mental and psychological issues of overcoming trauma, sexual content, prostitution, and other subjects of the sort. If you feel uncomfortable with those topics or are under 18, the age of 18, please proceed with caution. By the way, this prologue doesn't have anything that's not safe for work, so even if you're under 18, this video should be fine for you. Why hello and welcome to the Colors of Fate demo. Who am I, you ask? Oh dear, please do not mind me. I am but a humble tale teller and your guide in this story. Once the time comes for you to make choices, I will be at your side. Yes, choices. They will determine Media's future and path throughout her life. Depending on what choices you will make for her, it may end up changing her life drastically. Firstly, her path of life. During the prologue, the choices will lead her on either the maid path or the princess path. Do not worry about it. I am your guide and shall show you the changes you will cause on screen via handy dandy point system. If you are not satisfied with the choice you just made, you can simply scroll back with your mouse wheel and choose a new. How marvelous and so much easier than life. That's true. Once the prologue is over and our little protagonist has to navigate through life until her adulthood, the choices you shall pick for her will not drastically affect her future unless you run into a bad or even secret ending, that is. Affection points may also be influenced through choices and will lead to more intimate or personal scenes with the love interests. Again, nothing of that sort is in this specific build. Nothing of love interest, no intimacy stuff. Besides the choices, you might also encounter words marked in red. Please go ahead and click on those using your left mouse button. Red words. Some of them will appear throughout your journey, telling you about the character's lore and surrounding. Do not hesitate to click on them if you want to satisfy your curiosity. Great, I think we're all done with this little explanation. I humbly thank you for your time. Now come and see Melia's fate unfold before your eyes. Prologue. For what is a man without the comfort of tales, the stories that paint the world with all its details? A book holds treasure, say the greedy, and power claim the needy. It is but fables that seek to provide wonders with the weight of words, but man hardly listens, or cannot, for books do not speak. They whisper. I can't hear you, Enris. I did say to listen closely, you know. Nah, you didn't. I totally did. Did not. Come closer now and perk up those ears of yours. The girl did just that, huddled close to the boy underneath soft sheep fur. A smell of herbs and plant life wafted through the air, mixed in with the delicate smell of old wood to form an aroma of utter bliss, for it was as innocent as the pages before them. This story spoke of eternal love and happy endings. And so, relieved from her curse, the princess turned back into her original form, hair luscious and soft, and skin as white as porcelain. A beauty such as her could bedazzle any young man, and so the noble fell in love with her in an instant. His feelings were as pure as pond water, fairy-touched, and when he begged her to become his betrothed, she could see the depths of the oceans in his eyes. For his bravery in saving her and the blossoming feelings in her that bloomed brilliantly, she accepted his proposal. The wedding was celebrated with the wonders of spring, bright and bold and sun-kissed. Finally, feeling the love she so craved for, the princess kissed her husband with the weight of 1,000 hearts. They lived happily ever after. The end. A sweet story, honey-touched and soft like roses without the thorns. Enris closed the door with a smile and a sigh and turned to the girl with curiosity glinting in his eyes. Now Enris is a shy and small 11-year-old boy who dreams of becoming the next healer or herbalist of the village after his father. He and Melia are always stuck together. And that's it. What do you say? Did you enjoy the story? Media, however, was in a sour mood, mouth turned downwards in a frown. And Media, our protagonist, an energetic 10-year-old girl who is a real daredevil. She wants to become a strong lumberjack. The princess was so useless. Is that what all princesses are like? If so, they're boring, fun-hating, and dumb. And what makes you say that? Well, she stuttered, a voice a whimper when it should have been a storm. One could see the thoughts that rushed over her, a barrage of words that had yet to be put in an order that would not anger her storyteller. Well, they never dream of adventure for one. They sit around all day and wait for a white knight with a white horse and a white castle atop a snowy hill. Do they now? Yes, they do. I'd want action, you know? Sword fights and dragons and none of this being safe stuff, Enris. Now, dragons are an extremely rare species with great magical powers and rumored to be able to travel through worlds and dimensions. Known to be stingy beings, even the sweetest of them can become feral if one tries to take their finest treasure from them. So I guess in this world, in the world of Colors of Fate, we have dragons, which should be pretty cool. You would not want that, you know? Huh. That makes me wonder what kind of princess you would be. It better not be none at all. Certainly not the kind to sit around all day with no worries but to sew and not prick your finger on a cursed sewing needle. You would not wait for a lover to come, I'd wager. I can't imagine myself as a princess at all, though. That's a more of a role that you would fit into. Wait, you mean a prince, not a princess, right? He started laughing, the awkward kind that was not quite a giggle, not quite a snort. Enris was a boy, much too noble in his demeanor to stoop to such a low level, and yet he still struggled with the imaginary scenario. No, you heard me right. I mean a princess, 'cause you know lots of things and are calm and read books for hours without getting bored and... What are you talking about? I would totally be the white knight type on a noble steed rushing in to save a damsel in distress. As if to prove his point, the boy struck a pose, the storybook a poor imitation of a sword, a weapon forged from paper instead of iron, with only words for an edge. No? No, Enris. Anyway, I'm not destined to be a prince at all, so that is one problem solved. True. You're just always, every day in fact, telling me that you'll be the best healer the village will ever have when you've grown up. You're exaggerating. I don't say it every day. You're right. It's at least twice a week, though. Oftentimes 3 or more. Okay. You don't have to glare. I yield, oh great knight Enris. Now, you're always clinging to that diary that your brother gave you. Well, it's Ian's precious journal about healing recipes. It is invaluable. I don't want to lose it. Now, Ian is Enris's brother. He is a doting man in his early 20s and treats Melia as his own little sister. How'd you get it anyhow? Well, Ian said he knows the contents by heart, so I can learn from it and add my own discoveries in it as well. Isn't that exciting? It is, but it kind of makes me jealous, actually. Jealous? How so? Well, there's all these interesting pictures and drawings, circles and plans and more. Too bad I can't read any of it. Well, I told you before, did I not? Ask me anything and I will teach you. She sighed at that, the little laugh that crept up and out of her throat as much self-deprecating as it was humbling. That's okay, I'm too lazy anyhow. You don't have to be. I'll help you, but if you do not want to do it, then that's okay. But don't complain then. His hand reached out to ruffle her hair, the action much more soothing than intended, because he could never be rough, even if he wanted to. Oh, if you want adventure instead of princess stories, we have some books that you might enjoy. They are on my brother's shelves in our living room. Next time, tell me earlier that this kind of stuff bores you, okay? With that, he stood up from his bed, his feet dragging him towards the next room. But he stopped before exiting completely. Come, Melia, I'll show them to you. The books. With a girl in tow, the two of them quickly made their way over towards the living room, a space ripe with treasure, most of which the children weren't allowed to touch at all. It should be around here somewhere. Not every treasure rests inside a golden chest, as these books stood proudly on 3 wooden boards clumsily hung up on the wall with old nails. Amelia eyed them suspiciously, wondering how long the precarious furniture would stand the test of time. I guess they don't really have time to make solid furniture, always busy with their healing stuff. Or maybe his brother is simply as clumsy as Enris. Her thoughts were interrupted by Enris colliding with her. His try to reach the books while standing on his tiptoes a fruitless endeavor. Muttering a quick apology, the boy tried anew, as unsuccessful as he had been before. You need some help, Enris? No, I'm almost there. Oh! The moment his fingers finally clung to the board of the shelf, his balance toppled over once more. His nails dug into the wood, hands grasping at the material like claws as it produced a horrible cracking sound, not unlike a wounded animal. Watch out, you hurt yourself! No, Another creak, this one similar to the heavy breaths of fallen prey. Oh! Come on, Eris, let me help! She reached up, fingers touching fabric. Melia held onto it first, adjusting her grip so she could catch Enris easily. You can let go now. Are you sure? Yeah, I got you. Don't worry. Okay. With that, he let go, cheeks aflame in embarrassment. The blush on his cheeks only darkened when Melia did not let go immediately, but instead made sure to grasp his hand in her own, turning them over to check for wounds. That's my job, you know. I'm just checking real quick. Oh, there's a splinter here, Enris. A thick, gnarly piece of wood piercing his index finger, deep enough to draw blood, if only a little. But what hurt more than the battle wound was the concept of being saved in itself. It's fine, trust me. Alright, let's save, because it's our first choice here. So we can either let Enris treat himself or demand to take care of the splinter. I mean, come on. He doesn't have to be a baby. Let's take the splinter out. Made points. I'll be gentle, I promise. As gentle as a princess? Enris could not stop the slightly smug smile from overtaking his face and earned a pout in return. If you don't stop making fun of me, I'll be as direct as a maid. With that, Melia grabbed the offended enemy with 2 of her fingers and started pulling. If just a little. Enris, in return, pulled away from her, clutching at his hand as though his friend had inflicted more harm upon him. Alright, I yield. Just be careful, please. Of course. Give me your hand, alright? Okay. With that, Melia and Enris's hand Enris's hand in front of her once more, and this time decided to be much gentler with the way she handled his wounds. Hurt flesh had a morbid fascination attached to it, akin to the wonder that came with poking at stray scabs on otherwise pristine skin. Alright, on 3? Got it. 1, 2, and with that she yanked the splinter out of Enris's skin. What was left behind was a pulsating spot soon overcome with blood, and it stained his finger just so, but the pain subsided quickly, replaced with newly found comfort. Is it better? Let me fetch you a handkerchief. Yeah, but you said you would pull it out when you counted to 3. I lied. But why? Well, that way you didn't think of the pain that was to come. If you say so. Well, thanks, Melia. Melia nodded, quite proud of herself, and began to dig in her pockets for a piece of fabric that she kept for multiple purposes. Right now, it was fresh and clean and would soak up what little blood Enris had lost. Oh, got it. With that, she procured a beige, square piece of cloth, hardly worthy of the name handkerchief, and yet Enris eyed it with admiration as Melia pressed it against his finger. You can keep it for now, just give it back after your mother has washed it, okay? Are you sure? Of course. Why do you ask? Well, because it belongs to you. Well, we're friends, right? You can borrow it for now. The soft blush that crept up his cheeks was now not born from embarrassment, but something much humbler than that. Melia could not put her finger on it, and thus decided to focus on the task at hand instead. There, that should do it. Just keep it pressed against the wound until the bleeding stops completely. Thank you. You can let go of my hand now. Huh? Oh, of course. The smiles that followed were awkwardly in nature and yet genuine. Melia watched as Emrys patted the fabric as one would a pet. The wound, now dealt with, bled no longer. With it came Emrys's freedom once more, saved from any further fear of heat rising to his cheeks. He pressed onto the cut once before turning his attention back to the mess that they had made. What had once been a shadow of a shelf now resembled little more than its corpse. Books, formerly arranged in a strange fashion, now lay across the ground in all kinds of ways, some on their back, some thrown open by the fall, and others a weird mixture of both. Gently, Emrys knelt down to bring them back into a semblance of order. There it is! He grabbed one of the more colorful books, the pages yellowed and adorned with creases, but there was beauty to the age of it. Opening it invited the smell of old pages, an aroma that would awaken nostalgic memories. Melia, interested mostly in the knight on the front of the cover, slowly shuffled over to Emrys, only to fall down to her knees beside him. And this is what we're looking for. His deft fingers gingerly opened the book to its tables of contents. Bold letters proclaimed self-contained stories, and a smile laid across his lips as he read them out loud. The tale of the dragon shield, knighthood, the great tournament, those bring back memories. What are these, Emrys? At the question, Emrys began to beam with excitement with the excitement of a much younger child. Well, he's 11, so he's still pretty young. Picture books, or rather, this is a book my grandfather created with sketches from his travels. It was a diary or catalog to catalog his art first. He made it into a short story collection instead, using simple sentences to make teaching to read easier. Oh, and it's about knights? Well, he traveled with a clergy ship aided by knights, father told me. So yes, it is mostly about knights. With her interest finally caught in a web of pretty pencil lines, Melia urged Emrys to show her the wonders of the little bound book. To her surprise, the drawings ranged from simple sketches to almost realistic-looking portraits. She especially found the countless amounts of drawn weapons a fascinating sight to see. Once Emrys had skipped to a page showcasing a multitude of different insignia drawn onto a protective gear, Melia pointed towards a breasthead-covered shield. So what's written here? Well, this part about the shield that you see here, it lists them by name and there's information for them all. And this one? Well, that's a lion, apparently. Well, here it says that it's its head. It's not quite the same anymore, but you would do well to remember that the nearest kingdom has a very similar looking creature as a symbol. 1 second, I'm just gonna have a little bit of drink. There's lots and lots to read. Looking at it, the mane shaded with quick strokes evoked a feeling of fierceness, only trumped by sharp, pointy teeth. Melia let one of her fingers glide over the parchment, smile infectious. It reminds me of a cat. A large one. I bet you could ride it. These are predators though, not pets. Afraid to pat it then? Me? Never, of course. Promise me then. Huh? There it was, an open maw, toothy and ready for a fight. It was simply the dimples in her cheeks that made her retain the softness of a child. If we ever come across a lion, you will pat it. But lions do not live here. So you're afraid? I'm not. Alright then, for the sake of indulging your nonsense. Thank you. And much obligated? Obliged. A soft touch of his hand on her knee, just to gain her attention fully, and Emrys was the one grinning now. You do well to read the words too, you know. Fine. Teach me then, oh great Emrys. With pleasure. Gripping the book closer now, Emrys pointed towards every word he read aloud, landing at the Great Tournament, a story about knighthood, lances, and jousting. It was a grand old tale, commemorated by drawings that were at once fast but fluid, showing schemes instead of the true forms, a whirlwind of action. And as the knight took off his helmet, the prince bellowed, "I dare say it is a lady, not a lad." Whoa, a true woman, you say? A lady knight? That's what it says here, Lady. See? If I turn the page, the next sketch shows the portrait of a woman. The picture was less than detailed, but more than a mere shadow form. Plum lips and a soft glow of the eyes offset a gloomy smile and hardened cheekbones. To Melia, this woman was an enigma and idol at once. "She's beautiful." "Who is?" The arrival of Eris's brother was signaled with a booming voice and a creaking door. At once he stood behind the two children, gaze cast towards the mess they had made. Melia had to crane her neck to look into eyes that should have been filled with anger, but only showed signs of slight disappointment. Even those were offset by the childish grin on his lips, a stark difference to the picture of the woman in front of her. "So you two made a mess of things in the pursuit of knowledge again, Okay. Let's see. Point defiantly towards Enris or cover for him? Let's cover for him. Yeah, we're good friends." With a strength worthy of wielding a shield, the young girl knelt in front of Enris in protection, looking Ian in the eye with dedication towards her cause. There was conviction in her gaze. "It was my fault." Is that so, Melia? Would you care to explain further?" It was still there, that urge to protect him, but she cast her gaze downwards for the fraction of a second despite herself. At the very least, it gave her enough time to breathe in and out before setting her plan into motion. "Well, Eris was trying to teach me to read for a while now, and he told me of this really interesting picture book from his grandfather." Eris, catching on her plan, blushed a blossoming shade of crimson all the way to the tips of his ears. Yeah, I did. So I really bugged him about it until he could not deny me anymore." "And so he decided to grab it from the shelf, I take it?" "Eris did not want me to hurt myself. It would have all worked out really well if the shelf was more reliable." At that, Ian raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so you're saying the shelf was faulty, yes? It was the shelf's fault." If you put it that way." "My beautiful, well-ordered shelf, yes?" The mirth in his voice was a beautiful sing-song lilt, accentuated by a large grin overwhelming in its humorous nature. Melia felt it hard to keep her own face straight, dare the corners of her lips to point straight down instead of curling up in amusement. Yes, you're amazing, wondrous," Enris taught me that word, shelf. "It is a tragedy that it did not survive." She giggled softly, silent enough so that it did not reach Ian's ears, but Enris at her side had a hard time keeping from laughing himself, so it was simply the tremor of the shoulders that Ian noticed. A true horrific demise. Well, we can always build it anew. I'll have you know, though, that from now on it would be better to wait until I get back." "Again, I'm so very sorry, Ian. It's not Eris's fault." "Do not worry your little head over this, Melia. Things would have been far worse if one of you had been hurt." It was only the indication of a nod that signaled Melia that he had indeed noticed Eris's small wound. Yet he did not tell the two of them as such, and with Eris looking anywhere but at his brother, the clear emittance of knowledge was lost on him. Melia, however, sighed softly. The hand that was laid upon her shoulder, squeezing once, spoke silent words of thanks. "Make sure to take care of each other from now on, yeah?" "We will, I promise." Ian, visibly pleased to have resolved the situation temporarily, fell into an excited gesture, clapping his hands together as though remembering something important. "Oh, that's right! Melia, I checked back in with your mother, and so far the birth is going on without any complications." At the mention of her yet-to-be-born sibling, Melia could not help the excitement of wonder and fear from overtaking her features. She scrambled to her feet at once, followed by Enris, who almost tripped over the stack of books scattered around. Are you sure that she's doing fine? Is it a girl or a boy? Can I see the baby? Melia, one thing after another. It's fine, Enris. I'm sure Melia is just as excited as I was when you were born. Oh. At that, Enris blushed once more, and shyly turned his attention back to the utmost interesting wooden floorboards. Old, sturdy, boring. Well, there was only so much of my amazement in staring at the repeated pattern as a distraction. Alright, first things first. Yes, your mother and sibling are doing fine so far. I cannot tell you more as of yet, however. The birth is still ongoing after all. Why were you there then? Well, we need more herbs, and while the village's midwife is keeping watch, I was sent to fetch them. Of course, that son of hers is rather picking weeds than looking for herbs. However, I'm not quite sure I have the right ones still here at home. Would you children do me a favor and search for long, thin herbs with prickly stems? You know the ones, Enris, those meant to relax upon being steeped in boiling water. Melia's mother will need them after to regulate her stress level, you know? At this, Enris felt pride swell in his lithe body. He spoke his words with conviction, glad to be of use to his brother whom he looked up to so much. Of course, the one that feel like wax if you touch them, right? Exactly those, yes. If the two of you could find me some, I will in the meantime search for my herb stash for anything else that we might be missing. Consider it done. Are you trying to sound like a knight, Melia? If so, add my liege or my king to it, else you're not a proper knight. A huge smile rounded out Enris's features, puffed up cheeks filled with laughter he would not dare let loose. I do say, being a monarch would suit me mighty fine. Don't you think so, Enris? Your kingdom would look like your shelf, so... What was that? Nothing. We'll be on our way, yeah. At this, Enris quickly grabbed the hem of Melia's undershirt and dragged her out the door. There was little protest from her, aside from an irritated headshake, but before losing sight of Enris's brother, Melia could yet wave a quick goodbye. See you later, Ian. The way towards the forest would lead to the small village both children call home, and so their adventure was ripe with well-known faces and kind-hearted gestures. Melia counted farmers and shopkeepers, lumberjacks and carpenters, children and adults alike, even a traveler. Curious as such folks were, word traveled fast, and they would themselves ask again and again if the baby was already born. And every time anew, they had to repeat the same word. Not yet, we need to grab some herbs from the forest. We plan to stop by my home though, as the way into the forest is past it. Do me a favor then, and tell my congratulations what your brother and sister has been born, yes? I will stop by later and bring your mother a fresh loaf of my finest bread. I need to repay her for the ladder that she lent me the other day. I'm sure we'll be fine, Mr. Rowan. Mother knows that the harvest has been rough this year. No, I insist, Melia. Let an old man give thanks where thanks is due. Rowan winked, self-deprecating in a humorous way, for he barely reached 40 in age. Also, he's not that old. Well, compared to them, I guess. And if you continue being as stubborn as your mother, at least let me give you a slice of this spelt bread here for your little adventure. Melia wanted to deny the favor once more, too enamored with the old tales of righteous knights to consider handouts. But then Enris's stomach growled in protest, and she quickly snatched the 2 slices away, carrying a blush on her cheeks that could rival the one Enris was trying to hide. Thank you, Mr. Rowan. We will enjoy it wholeheartedly. You do that, children. You do that. Say, that reminds me. I recently gave that brother of yours some mighty fine bread, Enris. You did? Indeed, finest whole wheat bread. To get rid of that ugly demon called a hangover. You see, kiddos like you bunch are way too young for it, but the wheat giveth and it taketh away. Huh? Give a man bread and he'll be ready to tackle the day. Give a man ale and he'll dread the morning at midnight. Ah, you're talking about adult things again, Mr. Rowan. Indeed, as a warning. But do ask him what he thought. If he enjoyed it, tell him to stock up before his next night out. Enris chuckled lightly, half nervous but overall amused by the information. I shall do so, of course, and report back earnestly. Bravo, bravo. Your mother raised a mighty fine boy, Enris. I'm talking about both of you and Ian, of course. When I was your age... Mr. Rowan, you're younger than my mother. Well, you'll understand once your bones start crackling daily. Oh, to be young again. Well, at least I'm not a lightweight now. Gonna drink poor Ian under the table next time I see him at the tavern. Rowan let out a cough, signaling he had spoken too openly in front of the children. Instead of an apology, he offered a sideways smile and quickly drew their conversation to a close. Now carry along, I don't wish to keep you any longer than necessary. Yeah, shouldn't talk about, yeah, I'm gonna get drunk with your brother. And they did just that, Enris chewing on the dark bread while doing so. However, far they came not. Melia suddenly stopped in front of a small stall manned by a young man with calloused hands but a bright smile. A shop for carved wooden goods obviously made by a professional. Enris, can we take a real small stop here, please? Should be okay, I guess. Huh? Enris stumbled forward suddenly. A man completely hidden from view through thick layers of cloth roughly shoved his small body aside. This stranger did not care about respect or tact. His voice was gruff, stern, chilling like autumn winds. Out of my way, brat. Hey! There were words on Media's tongue, but she was too slow to speak them. The stranger had already moved past them, and the stall apparently preoccupied with getting to his destination fast. Then he stopped at another stall, once more not giving any thought to keeping the distance from others. Oh, how rude! That was super rude, super duper rude, Enris. He should apologize for his behavior. You're right, but I think he won't. The shady man wrapped in cloth that obscured his face shuffled nervously. He would not bring attention upon him if it were not for that and the shoving of innocent shoppers. Hey, Melia, have you noticed him continuing to... What do you think he's doing, Enris? Is he lost? No, that can't be it, but I've never seen him before. We should not stare, at any rate. True to his word, Enris diverted his attention, instead focusing on the carved wooden trinkets in front of him. Wooden toys like dogs or bears stood proud, while pendants meant to adorn leather necklaces tried to seem more elegant than oak. There were also wooden bowls and cutlery for the shopper with a more practical present in mind. Melia could not help but eye the strange man for a few seconds longer before she too eyed the many objects on display. Look, Enris, that wooden horse comes with a knight on its back. Enris's eyes flickered back and forth between the man, who had now taken up a spot in front of the baker's stall. He still shuffled back and forth, even ever restless. Normally, the both of them would not have time to spend window shopping like this, but... Yeah, he's definitely shady. Enris, is everything okay? Oh yeah, of course. You're not interested in that flower pendant or the little clover one? Melia gave them a moment of her attention, but quickly found interest in the carved toy again. The shopkeeper laughed heartily. Oh, Melia and Enris, are you right? Yeah, no harm done. That's good. How's your mother, Melia? I heard the baby's on the way. We're actually on the way to her. I just want to take a quick peek. Woodwork is so fascinating, and I love that horse with a rider a lot. Well, usually the boys are the ones who are interested in these. We also have animal toys like the fluffy dog over there, and I should still have a unicorn hiding somewhere here. Melia, suddenly fascinated even more upon receiving the shopkeeper's curiosity, vehemently shook her head. Enris, on the other hand, watched as the stranger fiddled with the deep pockets of his coat. So, I like how Enris is still checking out that guy that bumped into him. Nothing strange by itself, if it weren't for the fact that he was shielding himself from view as much as possible. That's okay. I like knights much more. Ah, is that so? Well, I'm afraid I don't have a princess figure yet, though. Maybe I should make one. Oh, just the knight is okay though. He's the one saving people after all. At that, Ernest's ears perked up. But instead of up about the toys, he found himself half whispering, "Shh, I think I know what he's doing." "Oh, that man? Weird guy, huh? We don't often see travelers here." One question?" "Yes, Ernest? Did you sell the unicorn and forget, or was it still here a couple of minutes ago?" "Well, it was definitely still here shortly before you kids came along." "Oh." The shopkeeper visibly grimaced, lips downcast in a worried expression. Ernest awkwardly glanced back and forth from the stranger to the table. Melia meanwhile found anger bubble up inside of her. "So that man stole—" I think so." "Look, he's catching people off guard near stall so the attention gets directed to the shoving. And once he's done that, he moves on to the next stall." Upon hearing Ernest say such a thing, she focused on the strange man. Truth was, he walked with purpose, furious in his steps. From such a distance no anger could be made out, but Melia was sure he carried a skull deep enough to be felt. Thick cloth fell away across his form when he raised his arm suddenly, his patchwork shirt on display, while in his hands rested something shiny. What exactly, that remains a mystery, but his action of stretching soon ceased and the object disappeared in his pocket. So he was stealing stuff, shiny objects, woodwork. A thief from head to toe with all his being. "You kids shouldn't worry about this. I'll make sure to tell the others. Thanks for noticing, both of you. If we catch him, and you're right, I'll give each one of you one of my wooden figures as a thanks. Sounds good?" In but a second, the worry on Melia's face made way for excitement. The shopkeeper's words put a smile on her face, bright and alight with gratitude. "Really? I'm not sure if we can really take that." "Yes, we can." Uh, yeah, you pretty like that horse and knight, huh?" "I do, and thanks, shopkeeper." "I'm sure you'll catch that thief, like a real knight would." Enrich chuckled at that softly, almost unnoticeable. "I've got a feeling you just want the gift, Melia." "No, of course not. I want justice, like a knight would. And woodwork is so fun, we can't have people steal such treasures." The young girl stammered nervously, voice rising, before she caught herself and ducked her head in embarrassment. Thankfully, Enris had enough tact for them both. Thank you. We'll visit again soon later and keep our eyes out if we can to help in any way with catching the thief." You kids let us adults handle that. I'm sure Melia's mother needs you more urgently." "Right." "Pleasure talking to you kids. Now, be off with you, okay?" "Right." The walk towards their destination resumed shortly after. Leaving the shopping district behind, the little village opened up to more flora and fauna. What was once a dirt road, stomped flat from years of use, now resembled a trail, frail but determined to carve its way through the grass. Of course, such a path was surrounded by vegetation ranging from flowers to herbs, and Eris's attention was soon focused upon the short stems and blooming blossoms that dared to greet the day. Some hung their heads low, stepped upon by prior feet of eager townfolk, but most defied giving up despite the broken parts. The young boy stopped on his way to reach down to a particularly misfortunate soul, little stem broken off completely, leaves yellowing from the lack of water. "Poor thing." "Oh, Eris, what you got there?" It would be a lie to say he displayed the plant with pride, but the thin smile on his lips was genuine. Not what we're looking for, but my brother said that these make good remedies for headaches if brewed into a tea. I guess this one had its own head trampled on, though." "Well, is it still useful? It looks sad. I didn't think you'd notice a little plant like that." "Well, Ian trained me. He does not abandon these. Says even a trampled flower was once beautiful. I think his words were, 'Bring a girl a flower, choose the prettiest one. Bring a girl medication, and you ought to pick the one most resilient.'" Recalling those words, Henry started giggling. "I just remembered something." "Something your brother said?" "Well, something he did. He He told me this because he did the exact opposite, brought over the saddest looking plant you could imagine and a remedy made from a flower pot at the florist. Can you imagine that? But why? I'm not sure. He said there were adult drinks involved? Oh, your brother was drunk? Well, it seems so. Access to our small village does not offer ale at the tavern. Mother calls it kickle juice. I think only Mr. Roman ever told me the truth, and that it's not for us meddling kiddos. I'm inclined to believe him, based on Ian's mistake. I need to bring that up one day, when he least expected. Do not, no. Bad enough that Mr. Rowan is expecting me to ask him for how well his hangover remedy tasted, but adding oil to the fire on top of that? He would ground me for that. Oh, then I'll definitely do it. At Media's cheeky smile, Enris could only shake his head in exasperation. With her mind set on a straight and narrow path, there was no stopping Melia. No matter whether such a sentence could be taken figuratively or literally. Their path indeed was a narrow one, and Melia truly remained a straightforward person. So it was no wonder that the young boy would refrain himself from furthering Media's cause for adventure at the cost of his own freedom, or from putting more ideas into that stubborn head of hers. Anyway, what do you think, Melia? He was rubbing the back of his head nervously, all while his free hand was softly stroking the wilted flower petals. Huh? Are you similar to that girl? Flowers. He vaguely gestured towards the plant in his grasp. Do you like them? Well, let's see. If I like flowers? Melia affirmed that she likes them, she preferred herbs for their usefulness. I mean, who doesn't like flowers? Yes. Okay, we got some princess points. I enjoy them a lot. Mother showed me all the flowers a florist had before. There were so many different ones, roses and tulips and magnolias. Common flowers. They were rare at first, roses, tulips and magnolias. Dragons took them from one of their travels and are now pretty common in this world. Interesting. So dragons made these types of flowers more common? Spread them all over the land? Pretty cool. Mother said I'm like a sunflower. A sunflower? Yeah, I can see that. You smile a lot and you love the sun. It fits. Enris carefully regarded the plant in his hand, seeing it in a new light. More importantly, sunflowers symbolize loyalty and longevity. Not unlike this plant, I suppose. Staring at the crooked stem felt easier than focusing on Melia's face, tinged with pink across her cheeks. Loyal. And long-living. I hope we stay friends until we are old. I could not bear to go through life without you. Aww. The conversation came to a close, leaving behind a warm comfort. There was nothing more that needed to be said. And so the journey towards Melia's home continued. Fitting closer to Enris's understanding of the world, Melia voiced a nagging thought in the back of her mind, born from curiosity. How many plants are there, Enris? Huh? How many? Yes, how many are there in the world? You have whole books about them, so it's at least 100, right? Oh, there are probably way more than that. Really? Yeah, tons and tons of different herbs and flowers and trees and bushes. Father has come back with new ones from his journeys often. He will show them to me and then he dries some of them or cuts them apart. Once he brought home rare seeds. They had a funny name, something like Kawai Chamomile. They help against colds, so now we sell them and the whole village profits. At that, Melia's eyes lit up. Such a direct impact on one's well-being was something to aspire to, and she could hear the confidence in every word that her friend spoke. Such deep, utmost adoration to a cause was stirring an emotion inside her that a young child such as herself could only describe with a single word. Whoa! Eloquent in its simplicity. It tickled a smile out of Enris until a grin was formed that gave birth to laughter, not made out of malice, but genuine glee. He's great, right? Mm-hmm. But what about you, Eris? What about me? Do you want to go on adventures like your father once you're grown up? I... The words were struck, wrapped tightly around his throat, constricting akin to a snake. It led to agitated nervousness forming a coil in his stomach, and he felt cornered as if he was prey to his own dreams. The open world was wondrous, but his wishes worrisome. Not due to their nature, but because nature was a place beyond the horizon, away from home. Yes, I wish to discover everything my father hasn't yet. This place is too small to do that, so I would have to leave eventually. Oh, but we would surely stay friends. Having to leave you and Ian and mother and father will be hard, but I can write. There's so many years left for me to teach you reading. Then, when you're older, I can send you letters and include whatever new discoveries I have within. Do you think I can do that? Learn reading? Of course, you just have to stop being lazy. Maybe. Maybe one day I'll be able to send letters back and talk about all the hard work I'm doing. You still want to become a lumberjack? Yep. I'll be the strongest than all the men in town. I'll be stronger than all the men in town. And once you come home, I'll crush you in a bear hug. Like this. With that, she enveloped Enris in an embrace as tight as a young girl could give. It was a mixture of the simple things in life and difficult promises. Such a hug smelled of childhood and felt like being forever young. It's his fault for being so comfy. Melia, promise me you'll come home or I won't let you go. Is that a threat? No, I don't think so. Not unless you say no, then I'll have to hug you even tighter until you can't breathe. Please no. I promise, I promise. So let go, This is so embarrassing. Please, Melia. The blush was all-encompassing, going from his neck to his ears, dusting cheeks and even his nose. Maybe he was getting aroused by the hug. What a cruel fate to be hugged in earnest with no way of freeing yourself. Continue to squeeze him or let him go. Okay, well, let's be nice, let him go. Made points. There you go. My, are you okay? You look like you had a fever, Eris. If you want, I can... no, please no, I'm fine. I'm not actively dying. But I will be if you come any closer again. You almost squeezed my lungs hard enough so that I could not breathe. Eris felt himself relax slowly as the rigid posture he had formerly been in softened up, and he took a deep breath as he calmed down. Melia, meanwhile, simply giggled. He's so nervous. How adorable. Left you breathless, huh? You could say I took your breath away? What? At once his heart rate shot up again, a constant thumping sound that made him aware of the close proximity they yet shared. Melia laid a hand on his shoulder and squeezed once. I'll take your word for it. Huh? That you'll visit, and write. And I promise to learn how to read. Another last squeeze and Melia stepped back fully. Enris wondered why the lingering warmth made him smile. As the two of them resumed their walk, both did so with much quicker, joyful steps. Bantering while pointing at different herbs and guessing names was a good way to pass the time. It required focus, but not too much of it, and it lent itself well to a game one could play without stopping. Young wildberry bushes were a distraction, but a welcome one that, once plucked, only made the journey that much sweeter. Oh, because they were eating them. The healthy snack was shared with sticky fruit juice covered fingers until every last berry had been consumed. Not much later, the most welcome sign of Melia's home came into vision. A little hut close to the village entrance, hidden just behind planks of wood if one were to stare into the community from the outside. Melia could see the forest just behind the border, but what interested her most was the state of her mother and unborn sibling, and so she rushed forward, leaving Enris behind. It took little strength to open the door, and yet the creaking floorboards signaled her arrival. What greeted her was the clean but cluttered living room she called home, with its trinkets and treasures and wooden interior. One could feel right at home in such a place, no matter how small it was, and yet it carried no quiet for the time being. Instead, screams resounded. "Oh, you're doing great, now just push." "Mother? Oh, Amelia, how good it is to see you." The midwife poked out her head from behind the room divider, looking stressed but otherwise happy. She was a plump woman, middle-aged, with wrinkles born from laughter rather than hardship, and she carried herself with the pride of someone bringing life into the world. Behind her, Amelia's mother was trying desperately to fight against the urge to bite into a pillow, so it was only a raised hand that greeted her daughter. "Amelia, we were expecting Ian, truthfully. Has he sent you kids to us?" "Phew, he has, yes." Enris huffed as he too stepped into Amelia's little sanctuary of a home. "He's out of his relaxation herbs, so we will look for them in the forest. She... oh... No, not yet, no." The midwife turned to address Amelia's mother, once more hidden from view. "And now breathe. Good, you're doing perfect." Good, good, just keep breathing. I'll be with you in but a minute. Just breathe steadily for now." "Amelia, your mother's alright, but she needs to concentrate a lot now. It would only be distracting to keep you two here for longer than necessary. But I'll make sure to have my son look for the two of you once the baby has been born, should you not be back by then." "Your son?" "Baldwin. He is currently tending to our garden. A good-for-nothing lazy lad they call him, but I know better. The boy just needs a good stern talking to every once in a while. And of course he can't say no to a request by me." "Huh, why's that?" "Because I won't allow him to say no." The midwife gave a small wink, then changed topics on a whim. "It is heaven's gift that we are neighbors." "It is. This brings back memories of your own birth, Amelia. You should know." "It does? How was I as a baby?" A loud, belly-aching laugh erupted from the midwife, her plump cheeks stretching with emotions until she had to hold her sides from the pain of it. Oh, a real handful. In fact, I've yet to see a louder baby in my life. My dear Baldwin, he came out nearly sleeping, I'll have you know. Very quiet, but you made up for that tenfold, Amelia. But who knows, your sibling might break that record." "I'm sure Enris whined much more." I did not." You must have." "Careful, young woman, or I'll spill the secret of your lost wooden horse right here, yes I will."
Better not."
"Now I'm curious." "Some other time now." Another quick wink, then the midwife ducked away once more. Her voice, however, was still booming and lively. "Go grab your sturdy shoes before you leave, yes, Amelia?" "We don't want you to ruin a perfectly fine pair with moss and mud, do we?" Amelia gulped and scratched the back of her head nervously.
Of course."
"Some mother told her about the last time, huh?" Not one to fight a losing battle, Amelia rushed up to her room. The place she found was one of comfort, smelling faintly of lavender and another aromatic herbs. It held all her treasures in it, this lived-in, springly place. Her room offered an invitation for a relaxed day, but Amelia was in a hurry, so she grabbed her shoe-clad foot and dragged the footwear off of her sole. This finely crafted item was haphazardly thrown across the room, coming to a rest before her bed. Afterwards, the second one followed, hitting the first one straight on. "Our sturdy shoes, old sturdy shoes, and there we go." Fiddling with the opening of the much less elaborately decorated pair, Amelia quickly put the shoes on, tying a knot afterwards that seemed crooked, but did its job just fine. She stared back to take in the interior of the room, wondering if it would one day harbor a second bed for her sibling. I mean, that would make sense, right, when the baby grows? Then she turned around and returned to the living room floor. "I did as you told me to." The sing-song lilt of Amelia's voice was joyful, if a bit sarcastic in nature. A chuckle of the midwife was her answer. "Good job." Now fly fly little birdies, a good child is. As quick-witted as a squirrel, I know. But I need to talk to mother for a short while first. Wait, let me help with the things you need done. And wholly ungracefully, Enris followed behind the midwife, giving privacy where it was needed. Melia sighed before stepping behind the room divider to have a chance to look into the eyes of her mother. The woman was beautiful, despite the grey in her hair and the sweat clinging to her forehead. She was real, and so very alive in the moment of birth, stuck in a moment of pain and joy. I can't wait to meet my sibling, mother. And I can't wait for it to meet you, my dear. Come over to my side, child. Melia did as she was told. The place next to the bedside of her mother was prickling with energy, and she could feel the intertwining fingers of her mother holding on to her own hand. It felt a bit clammy, and the grip was just a bit too strong. Her mother's nails were chipped from chores, and the skin of her hand was rough and overworked. Such a hand would never dare be called beautiful, and no ring elevated it above poverty. Yet it was the hand of a mother, perfect as it was. You've grown so much. You were so small, and now look at you. I just know that you'll do great things, my dear. A mother's gaze full of love could never be described with words alone. It was warmth and comfort and a safe haven. It lingered as love so often does. Mother, you will be the brightest big sister a child could hope to have. You're already the best daughter a mother could ask for after all. Holding up their intertwined hands, Melia's mother pressed a soft kiss upon her child's skin. Be a dear and greet Enris for me. That boy is always welcome here with us. So intelligent and humble, he'll be a fine lad one day. I'm glad he's your friend. Make sure to protect each other, yes? Of course. Good. And come back straight away when you have the herbs, okay? The forest isn't safe for children. Don't go too far inside. She squeezed her daughter's hand once more, a heartfelt gesture that turned into an iron grip once the labor pain resumed. Mother... It took but a moment for the midwife to return, carrying fresh towels and a bowl of warm water. Enris peeked in from behind her back, a kettle in hand, most definitely the source of the heated water. Is she alright? Quite, but you children need to go now. Let the adults take over. I'll be sure to take good care of her. You children just worry about finding those pesky herbs, yes? We will be successful, I promise. I'll see you later. Mother, we'll be right back. Melia, you'll be a great big sister. Enris, leave the kettle here, thank you. The last quick squeeze of her mother's hand, and then Melia and Enris left in haste. Outside it was quieter. Neither the hustle and bustle of the village market nor the screams of her mother were filling the atmosphere with vibrations as relentless as approaching thunder. Here nature called, and it rained in a blue sky and no lightning to be seen. A whole world made up by the plants and animals too small to take note of in everyday life, and every protector and predator and prey alike stood equal in its circle. Ruler was Mother Nature herself, wearing berries as crown gems and a leaf gown, a scepter created from twigs made up by all the wonders the earth produced. Hers was a calm, collected kingdom, at least for the day, where trees stood akin to towers beckoning from beyond the forest to seek knowledge in its labyrinth. The children followed its call past the village's gates, until the visible dirt trail became the only road desperate enough to carve its way through the underbrush, where treetops shielded the sun from seeing through and roots peeked out from the soil. That place was ripe with rare opportunity and so much more magical for a child than an adult. So inside they went. Deep into the forest now. Sorry, just one more drink. This is a pretty long prologue. It's nice and cool here. And serene. Serene? Sounds more like a name than a word, Enris. Serene. It means for something to be tranquil. Now you're just inventing words. I don't know what tran means, but quills are used to write things with. I'm really not. Uh-huh. It's, it means peaceful, calm. And it's calm here. Hmm?
Oh, sure is.
Shh, not so loud, Melia. You will scare the critters like the bird over there. Enris pointed towards a woodpecker, its sharp beak creating a fast-paced rhythm to offset the forest's demeanor. The tree at its mercy had a hole carved into it, and the bird worked with as much precision as their own village's woodworker.
Oh, whoa. I mean, whoa. Look how strong it is. I hope I'll be just as strong one day.
Wait, you want to hit your nose against tree bark to dig holes?
No, silly. If I want to become a lumberjack, I need to be like a woodpecker.
You will be, but that thought is too funny. Enris, overly amused by the mental image invading his head, soon found himself openly laughing. The woodpecker, disturbed in its work routine, turned its head and flew away, leaving a half-finished hole behind. It will probably be back. It granted the tree a large scar-like mark. Enris cleared his throat. Anyway, we should search for the herbs now.
Ah, yeah. Wax-like feeling to the touch, right?
Mm-hmm, you got it.
Enris crouched down, picking at stray plants here and there, some prickly, some smooth, but none feeling like wax. Picking up some of the rarer ones for future remedies was a good idea nonetheless, and so Melia watched as many different herbs found their way into Enris's satchel for plant gathering. The young boy picked them with expertise, his movements clumsy and childlike, but his knowledge vast and wide. Enris held up a cilantro leaf, its mother plant hidden behind soft shade. This one is good for fighting off fevers.
Ah, that's great for colds, huh?
Then Enris showed a valerian plant, roots and all, which had been sitting in the sun. And this one's root, a sleeping aid. Good thing your explanations don't bore me to sleep, Enris. The next plant Enris held up to Melia was a small mint plant, its leaves fresh and soft to the touch. Oh, and Ian always takes this one after he hits the tavern. Roland must be a fan too then. At last, Enris showed off a collection of mugwort leaves. Their large, spiky look akin to fiery tongues. And father prefers to boil this one into a tea. The midwife has joined him on occasion too. Oh, really? I think I saw mother drink it before. It's too bitter for me though. Trying to remember all of this newfound information was not an easy task, but Melia tried to commit the details of the plans to memory regardless, if only to keep Enris entertained. Truly, the young girl preferred to search for adventure in the thick forest, but finding a needle in a haystack was not so bad either. So she wondered and pondered and voiced her thoughts. None of these are what we need, right? No waxy leaves and prickly stems on any of them?
Yeah, sadly, yes. We're searching for something that helps calm stress after labor or some intensive labor, but these are still helpful.
I don't want to let Mother or Ian down, though.
Me neither. So come, we'll walk in further.
But this is as deep as we ever went in. You always stop me if I want to go deeper into the forest.
Yeah. Looking up from his bundle of plants, Enris took in the dark depths of the area. Here, the forest became a true labyrinth, unknown to the children. Starting from this point onwards, there would be no safety of prior experiences, both good and bad. Only the sheer opportunity for new ones, but that brought danger with it. It's a bit scary, right?
But also fun. We could find herbs no one has ever seen before.
Well, that's true.
And you've got me, right? We can't let the others down.
You're right.
Of course I am.
Laughing softly, Melia patted Enris on his back, an action that made the young boy stumble forward and over a root. He landed in a dirt patch, trousers now stained with brown and green spots. Rushing over, Melia immediately apologized, stuck between wishing to lend Enris a hand or picking up the stray plants that had fallen to the ground out of an instantaneous reaction by Enris to try to soften his fall. Okay, another choice. Pick Enris up or pick the herbs up? Well, obviously, Enris. Made points, +5. The answer came naturally to her. Amelia found herself in front of her friend, staring down at him sympathetically.
The herbs for the moment lay forgotten despite the soft winds. "Are you alright?" "Could be better. Didn't hurt a splinter wound though." But his smile let Melia know that Enris was visibly not hurt. With his pride being the only wounded thing, the boy sat himself up. His hands were covered in the forest's grime, and so he whittled them even after Melia reached out helpfully. "Don't, I'm so filthy." You're not looking worse than my mother when she's gardening." So Melia grabbed his hand forcefully and raised him up until he stood beside her. Checking him for any bruises meant she had to get into his personal bubble, but she cared little for that and the blush it brought onto his face. Afterwards, she cleaned off her dirtier hands on her own clothes, not minding the way the fabric stained from the action. "See? All good." "You're very clumsy today, Enris." "I'm more worried about the plants. What if some of the herbs got lost, or worse, destroyed? Then we just gotta pick them up, save them like a true knight would, huh?" "You and your knight stories." But he did not disagree with Melia's plan, and so the two children rescued the precious remedies eagerly. That small accident dealt with, the children continued moving on. What had formerly been the thick underbrush of the forest slowly but surely opened some more until the sun peeked through the branches and a clearing became visible. Now the warm glow of the day could be felt again, something that drove away the shivers brought on by howling winds. "Look, Enris, what do you think? What do you think this is? What do you think it is? A clearing in the midst, in its midst, a unicorn, or a plain where the deers and doves play? I never went this far. I'm not sure, but the sun feels good on my skin. Really warms you up, huh? I was about to ask you to cuddle for warmth. Oh, he's gonna blush again. I know you. You just want to scare me with your ice-cold fingers, Melia." Melia started giggling, a bright and eager sound to offset the frown that had settled onto Enris's lips. It was melodic in nature and yet full of childish mischief. "Me tricking you? Never." Did not think of it. I surely didn't." "You're grinning like a stray cat that caught a mouse. Me being the mouse. I'll not fall for it, not again." Be that way. Then you don't get a hug from... Oh, Melia, look!" Enris, completely enraptured by something seemingly extraordinary, jumped up and down in excitement. Melia looked towards him and saw him point towards an object off in the distance. Following his outstretched hand, Melia soon noticed that what had her friend so incredibly overwhelmed all of a sudden. "Is that? Sure is." What? There, off in the distance, where the forest cleared up into an almost open pasture, stood a large tree harboring the miracle herb long searched for. Nice. It grew around thick branches, safe from any low living animal curious to see whether it tasted well. Truthfully, the plant wrapped around the tree so high up that there was no way for the children to reach it from the ground. That did not stop the both of them from rushing forward, however, everything else prior forgotten. "We found it!" But it's so high up." Enris cranked his neck to look up at the tree's canopy, mouth wide open. "That is so much higher than Ian's shelf." "It is." Melia let her outstretched hand reach up, yet even on her tiptoes she could not reach the lowest hanging leaves of the tree, much less any of the herbs ones. "You can't climb the tree with your wound." "Melia? You don't mean..." "Yep, it means I have to climb, right? I'm going to be really careful, so you don't have to rescue me." Are you sure? What if you..." "Won't happen. I've climbed a bunch of trees before." But never this one." "Well, it looks stable though. See how thick those branches are? I think they can support even the both of us." "Excuse me, but I would rather not find that out." "Of course not. You just sit here and look pretty like a good princess." "Hey, unfair. Just let this knight in shining armor handle it." "Only if you call me a prince at least." Fine. Prince Enris, I, your loyal knight, will make sure that any herbalist in the area will have enough medication for weeks." Grinning, Melia decided to strike a pose heroic enough to surely suit a knight. Not that she had any way to be sure, but it definitely made her feel like a noble woman. She carefully regarded the large tree with all its branches and branching parts, looked at its bark, and felt the rough texture in her hands. If only she could find a decent point to take hold of. What about this part? Look, there's a piece of bark that could support your foot. Oh, yes, that could work. Good job, my liege. I, Prince Enris, future amazing court herbalist. Shouldn't that be the other way around? No, nonsense. I can both be a prince and an herbalist. If you say so. I shall hereby give you the order to collect these very herbs for the goodness of the people. That's your mother? Ah, I understood, my prince. Princeliest friend of mine. Now you're just making fun of me. I would never, your highness. Before he could answer her, either to a disgruntled look that rivaled a puppy dog being angry, or to pleading his eyes that were also very puppy-like, Melia decided to try out Enris's suggestion. There in the middle of the tree was a piece of bark, just protruding far enough from the rest of the surrounding area to work as a first step for climbing. It was just big enough to support a child's foot, but that was all Melia needed to be able to grab hold of the lowest hanging branch of the tree. So she used the bark as a makeshift ladder, propelling herself upwards in one swift motion, arms stretched to the heavens in order to get to her destination. But all she managed to hold on to was a leaf, which promptly ripped off, causing Melia to fall back down. At least I landed on my feet. Do I need to try? I'm older, you know. Princes aren't made to get their hands dirty, Enris, and no, even herbalists wash them after adventures. Alright. So she tried again, stretching her arms out even further this time. With the little ledge doing its best to support her, Melia held her breath, and she jumped up this time. Her hands were outstretched, fingers far enough apart to get a proper hold on the branch, and it was getting nearer, almost ready to touch. Got it! Do you know where to go from there? I just need to get my legs up like so. With that, Melia used the tree trunk as a ramp, her hands holding on strong to the branch that was twice as thick as his fingers were long. Then she would finally get her leg over the branch as well. The worst part was behind her, the muscles in her arm no longer supporting her full weight on their own. Hoisting herself up on the branch after was easily to do. And so she sat up there, staring down at Enris with the biggest grin on her face. Told you I could do it! Being on top of the world, wherein a world could be a little more than old oak tree to a child, was a mesmerizing experience. Even more so as Melia carefully stood up, both feet firmly on the branch underneath her. There was a soft groan to be heard, little more than the owl of the wind, and no less strange in nature. If she listened closely, it sounded almost like a whisper. But no child has ever obeyed the careful warning of nature willingly, not when the prospects of magic was so ingrained in the deep woods. Where fairy tales could come true, no fable's message would be heard. It was no wonder that the kids were preoccupied with a much simpler circumstance. You're so high up! Almost as tall as the trees. Alright, Enris, I'm gonna reach for the herbs now. I'll throw them down to you, okay? No worries, I'm gonna catch them. Just let me know when you intend to drop them so the wind does not drag them away. Will do. The tree branch held on, supportive even as Melia went on the tip of her toes and reached up towards a higher branch where the much-needed herbs had coiled around like a snake. The wrapped waves of the wax-like leaves were wondrous to look at, and so Melia eyed them a second before she grabbed onto a stem to tug a part of them down. It took more strength than first thought, as the stems were much more durable than those of young flowers. The plant seemed to hold on with all its might, making harvesting difficult. Still, Melia succeeded and soon held a small amount of the rare herb in the palms of her hand. Yes, I got some! I saw. That was great, Melia. And catch it, Enris. With that, she let the pile fall to the ground, only for Enris to catch it effortlessly. Looking down made her a tad uncomfortable, just the slightest bit nauseous, vertigo, but it was nothing a knight would not be able to handle. So Amelia chewed up the anxiety and gulped down all fear. I'll grab some more. Breathing in and out once, she made a second attempt to reach for what they had come all this way for. The herbs finding a home in Eris's satchel were more than enough, yet one could never have enough remedies, right? Well, yeah. That also, greediness is not good. After all these plans were for the good of the village, but even well-meant greed could lead to a fall. Milia! Uh-oh. The hurt came after, slow, starting with a warmth with a licking flame that soon erupted into a hot, searing fire, much worse than the wound that a splinter could do, because wrecked wood hurt less than broken bones. Ooh, that's not good. This hurt spread throughout her whole leg, lighting nerves aflame and bringing screams alive. Oh, it hurts, Enris! Emilia, can you stand? I can try. At once, Enris was at her side, small hands trying to give support by hooking underneath her arms. This way, he could help lift her up, lift her off the ground, and it seemed to be working, at least until Amelia put weight on her left leg. Oh! A sharp new bolt of pain ran through her, and with a tearful yell, she fell back down. Enris could only watch in horror as she began to clutch her leg to bring it in a position that hurt less. Amelia, what should I do? Deep in the woods, with no way to properly support her, Enris began pacing nervously. I need to get an adult, but then you're all alone. But if I don't go, we're stuck here. Enris? Yes? Mother needs the herbs. You can bring Ian, right? Or the midwife, or someone. Mother and my sibling need you. But you? I'll wait here. You'll come back for me, right? Of course. Oh. Grimacing, Amelia crawled over to rest against the tree trunk. The broken branch laid close, a stark reminder of the situation Amelia had just experienced. She followed away from the branch up towards the canopy of the tree, and only now really realized that's the height that she had fallen from. It made her stomach churn. That was so high. It's okay. You're going to be all right. I'll bring someone who can help. We'll be back in no time. I promise. But I should have been the one to. Nonsense. Help me help you by staying where you are. Amelia took a deep breath, keeping herself from protesting. Okay, I can do that. Great. Eris came over with quick steps to lay a hand on Amelia's shoulder. The warmth of his touch stood in a complete contrast with the hot pain clouding her thoughts and the cold wind brushing against her form. It was pleasant, reassuring, real. His face became her only focus, full of determination and the growth that made flowers bloom and formed boys into men. A force to be reckoned with, and yet still carrying the naivete of youth. I know you hate such stories, but all stories with such themes carry happy endings, and so, Eris, why is your face so red? So let me do this. If I can lift curses, then just maybe it's worth a try. Eris kneeled down in front of Amelia, carefully to avoid hurting her further, but filled with the need to stay close. He smelled of home and whatever heartache young boys could feel. Something more natural than nature, the deep-rooted type of earthen wishes. I might not be a prince who can cure you, and there are no herbs here that I can use to help you, but fairy tales were wonderful stories, all with an end that was happy. This kiss had no resemblance to them. Whoa, he kissed her? It was neither magical nor perfect. A kiss such as this, brought upon by numb nervousness, could only taste of chapped lips and childhood longing. It gave hope, taking away a bit of heart in the process, and it was over as soon as it had begun, leaving nothing but silence behind. Oh. I'm sorry, you can chew me out later. I just wanted you to forget about the pain for a second. See you soon, Media. Until then, I'll be on my way. And he left just like that. The deep silence reigned after. It did so with little more than the whisper of the wind caressing with a soft chill. Melia felt the heat on her cheeks grow colder until red became pink and then vanished altogether. Eris. His name on her lips tasted of honeyed innocence, something more raw and real than before. It was like biting into beeswax, the feeling of it sticking to her teeth. He won't let me down. I'm sure of that. Eris will be here with help in no time. Melia held on to that thought and tried to find a position against the tree trunk that would lead her to no new pain. The bark at her back was less than comfortable, but at least the tree roots peeking out from the ground made it possible for her to use as an elevated area to lay her leg on. Like this, there was no extra pressure to put onto the wound. What was left to do was to wait, so waiting was what she did. The tree's canopy let light peek through green leaves, letting beams of sunlight dance across her skin. Melia looked up towards the sky, trying to catch a glimpse of the blue overhead, eager to be free from the clutches of the forest. And so she sat and stared, and saw the hints of blue get covered by white, tinging the forest floor in shadow. It was colder then, lonelier. No need to worry. I just need to be patient. Sighing, Melia let her attention switch towards the path Eris and her walked on, and her thoughts drifted towards the people close to her. If Mother was here, she'd scold me for not keeping my legs still. The midwife was right, calling me a squirrel, but I can't fly like a bird. Knowing Mr. Roman, he'd bring me fresh bread to help me heal. And Ian, well, he would probably just laugh and ruffle my hair. He'd give me a piggyback ride, even if I hated it, because he's always so... I wish Ian would give me a piggyback ride out of here. She chewed on her lip absent-mindedly, putting more pressure on the flesh with her teeth whenever her wound would shoot a bolt of pain through her. Overhead, a thick cloud multiplied, a blanket of white that ate up the light eagerly. No sheep could be counted from Melia's angle down on the ground, so she did not bother with it. The dirt path was, at least in her mind, much more interesting, and so she began to try to identify the herbs and plants that tried to stain her necks, tried to strain their necks in order to get a sliver of the light that would normally touch the forest floor. Thick patches of green became sparsely populated areas. There were the shadows reigned. Within them stood a small but dignified plant. Eris could pick some of these up when he comes back. Melia's gaze then turned towards a moonlight-colored flower, bright, almost glowing. And I could bring this to Mother as a present. Maybe I'll take her to see this soon. For now, all she could do was watch the forest change. And it did change. Clouds parted once more to let light through, golden light that began to turn into bronze, giving the parts it touched an orange hue. Pretty. Amelia closed her eyes, soaking in the warmth of the supple light provided. Deep in thought, the loneliness was less pronounced, given away and traded for the mental image of her new sibling. Holding it would be a pleasure powerful enough to let the pain be forgotten. A kiss upon a baby's brow would feel so much different than Eris's lips on her own. That memory startled her. The brightness of the day was kissed goodnight in exchange for the afternoon sun, and it was only after she opened her eyes again that she realized the passage of time. It was late. Eris should be back by now, right? Eris? Ian? Is someone there? I'm here. No answer was given. The whole forest as silently judgmental as it had been before. It stared her down from high up in the trees, with owls and oaks alike. Owls? How late is it already? Too late was that a voice in the back of her mind started whispering, and the dreadful fear of being forgotten decided to take root and grew within Melia. But Eris would never abandon me. I need to get home. A gust of wind made her shiver, but not deter her determination. Deciding to reason like the adults would do, she grit her teeth and started to get up. There was no time for tears, though some of them fell. Ouch! Oh, that's an owl. Maybe Mother's not feeling okay, or Ian got lost in the forest. Either way, I need to get back. Woohoo! The large brown bird mocked her from high up in the tree, only to fly down with large flaps of its wings taking rest upon the fallen tree branch. Something fell off of it before it came to sit on the wood. It looked amused, if animals were even capable of showing such an emotion. Standing wobbly on her legs, Melia eyed the bird carefully. It preened its feathers, letting dust fall out of its wings. Dust? The grey dirt soon fell to the ground, and the bird looked much more regal again. Whatever strange substance had dirtied the bird became unimportant as Melia got an idea. The branch! The almost shout was enough to startle the owl, and it quickly reverted its position, deciding to find a higher spot in the trees to overlook the situation. But that was alright. With the goal in mind, Melia hobbled over towards the large branch that had given out under her leg, causing the wound she now wore. If I break a part of it off, I can walk faster. Okay, let's see. So we can either rip off a branch forcefully or find a weakened branch. Well, if I'm going to use it as a crutch, then I want a good branch, so let's try to rip off. Made points. Without hesitation, Melia made a step to grab the first sturdy branch she saw. The wood felt strong underneath her fingertips, and the surface was smooth enough to grasp without causing discomfort. But as she decided to break it off, the branch held on strong. No cracking sound could be heard, no matter how much Melia tried to twist it. Damn it! Seeing as the branch would not budge, Jesus. Melia decided to put her weight on her wounded leg. The pain was almost unbearable, but it freed her healthy leg so she could kick at the wood. Come on! One kick and a crack could be heard. A second kick and the branch came loose. The third and last kick ripped the branch free. Melia almost fell backwards, but could catch her balance at the last second. She immediately put the pressure on her healthy leg again, but now held a sturdy, large branch in her small hands. Alright, this should work. Cradling the branch in her hands gave her newfound strength. It was comforting to have support at the ready, and so Melia tested out her walking aid immediately. A finely carved cane would be the better option, but such luxury was not to be found in the forests. Her makeshift help worked well enough. It works! Okay, you're strong, you can do this. Not one for waiting to be saved, Melia adopted the steadfast nature of a knight. This all would be easier if I had a horse, but I'd be a princess if I can't help myself. And then I'd prove Enris right. I can get out of here, I know it. It did not matter that dry tears were hugging her cheeks, or that the approaching night was eager to nip at her neck with cold kisses. Melia walked with purpose. The shiver running down the back of her like an army of ants would not stop her, and neither would the anthill to the right, crawling with the ground dwellers. The thumping sound of Melia's branch made them crawl away from the path, whispering the approaching danger towards their neighbors, and so the ants found a new, safer road to travel. Careful, I don't want to trample you guys. Huh? Approaching the hill carefully, Melia cocked her head to the side in confusion upon seeing a weird object stick out halfway burrowed. That looks like a map, but it's all dirty and crumpled up. Was someone looking for treasure? I should better get going though. Mother's probably sick with worry. Not giving it any more attention, although I would have taken that map, Melia carried on. The thick forest slowly opened up to the area Melia was more familiar with. She felt relief upon seeing the tree canopy let more light shine through, and the eerie coldness that the deep forest seemed to harbor changed to a more comfortable breeze. Slowly the day died to make space for the approaching night. And as Melia carried on, it was not the sun, but the moon who lit up the path that she walked. Here, the wind howled lighter sounds, but carried dust with it. What is that? Grey matter had been blown right into her face, and Melia carefully balanced on her branch to be able to rub the dirt out of her skin. Her hands came back in her vision, stained with dark streaks. What is this? She was just as dumbfounded as before, but she brought the more stained hand back to her face and sniffed. It smelled burnt. Ash? Is someone having a campfire near here? Her eyes lit up with hopeful excitement. Maybe that means... Yes, maybe Enris and Ian or someone else. Someone who's searching for me. I just need to look out for a fire or the smell of freshly burned wood. Don't worry, I'm right here. I'm not lost. With newfound vigor, her pace increased from a steady wobble to eager hopping. Whatever pain still rippled through her leg like a wave resembled a quaint pond at the moment, easy to be overlooked and not at all overwhelming. Adrenaline had taken hold of her, making her believe that a single last sprint would grant her salvation. Hello? I'm here. It's me, Amelia. I'm okay. While she received no immediate answer, that did not stop her from calling out. Ian? Enris? I'm alright. Whoever's there, it's me. Hello? Oh. The distinct smell of burning wood permeated her nose and an uncomfortable stench that made her cough. It was overbearing, so that tears started to prick her at her eyes. Ugh. Still, Melia would gladly stand in black smoke if it meant she would be found. So, as she saw bright light flicker to the trees, she would feel her heartbeat in her chest. It was the strong drumming that anticipation had built, and she hurried along to the shining light like a moth to a flame. The deep red mixed with the bluish tones, so much so that the bright color demanded to be seen in all its glory, and Melia followed its call. 1 step further, only 2 steps farther, just 3 steps left, and then... Whoa. Her village is burning. Shit. What? But... No fire crackled softly. The makeshift camp existed. No makeshift camp existed. No one waited. No one spoke. Destruction was a harsh word, one that tales meant for children would not speak of. It sat locked away from the innocence of youth, but destruction was what reigned here, far in the distance. There were the houses became hearts of flames, where the grass burned down to the dirt. It was there where the light shone, licking red fire tongues and opening yellow hungry maws. It bit into every nose until tears fell so it could lick up the salt. Destruction was no gentle monster. It would never soothe its hunger. The village! It's all burning? Why? Why is it? Why am I... Is that why no one came? If it were not for the supporting branch, Melia would have lost her balance. But as it were, she could not stop her trembling form. It was so much worse than the panic a wounded leg could cause. This fear was one born from haste and heartbreak, and it made her numb to any physical pain. What was important could not be carved out of wood. It could not break like branches. What mattered was alive and alight with every beat of her heart, and she had to find it. So she pressed on, speaking names into the foreboding night as though the act alone could bring anyone and anything to life. Mother? Enris? Ian? Mother? Enris? Ian? It's Melia. I'm alright. Please answer me. Mother? Enris? Ian? Melia called the whole way, even as her voice became hoarse and her throat started to hurt from the smoke. Even as the fire became nearer, as the heat started to burn. Even as she went through the destroyed gates signaling the start of her village. Even as she rushed to her home. A one safe haven for her, giving shelter and love and wanting nothing in return. Where the bed was made and the meals were home cooked. The place where she had held the hand of her mother not a day prior, where her sibling was soon to be born. The very place one could grow up fearing not even the monster under the bed. Home. Mother? A childhood could end just like that. most reminiscent about her youth with a quiet longing, something that was born from thinking back on happy times, the kind of memory one loved to hold on to with a soft embrace. Melia felt the need to claw at the burning past until the thoughts turned into trinkets of terror in her hands. Ash warmed her skin, the only thing left from destruction, and it slipped to her fingers, leaving only a grey soot behind. That pile at her feet could have been a wooden figure or a painstakingly created piece of furniture. It was the work of nature or nurture, either crafted by Mother Earth herself or by the hands that she had given birth to. Now it was nothing, nothing to hold. She could hardly find the strength to look up, to stare ahead into the flames that devoured her home with fire tongues and smoke teeth. Amelia thought all of it constricted her. Amelia thought all of it constricted her throat, pumping grey into her lungs until she felt that her heart must have burned down too, because breathing became painful, and whatever she coughed up was as dark as ash. But such hurt meant nothing compared to the fear bubbling up inside of her. "Mother?" The fire answered with gnawing at a wooden beam until it moaned underneath the weight of flames and came crashing down, letting the remainder of the roof topple down with it. Melia shielded her body on instinct, bringing up the ash-covered hands in front of her face, and the heat was relentless in wanting to burn. She should move, but felt frozen. "Girl, you need to get out of there!" At once, a hand grabbed hold of her, throwing her back as if she weighted nothing. The impact on the ground left her confused, but the person who had rescued her was already blended into a crowd of frantic victims watching their lives burn down around them. She only knew it had not been her mother, and that was enough to get her to stand, a goal in mind. "Mother's out there, and Riz too. If I can find them? No, I have to find them." The branch that she used prior to get around had already fallen to the flames and burned bright with crackling sounds. There was no use in trying to find something else, especially in such a chaotic crowd. Jesus. Really bad. I mean, probably they were attacked. The people did not give her any attention, too preoccupied with finding their own friends and family. She heard neighbor screams scream out names and panic, only not to receive an answer. But whereas there was usually a hustle and bustle in the area, what voices there were now were either swallowed by the chaos or faint and broken. People wailed and cried and held hands of the long gone, those that smelled of smoke and ash, some crushed by debris, others murdered in cold blood. So someone attacked, like maybe a raiders army or something. Okay, because the murders. The rest blackened and unrecognizable. Media focused on none of them and all of them at once, too overwhelmed by the death and decay around her. Where's Mr. Rowan? That guy still owes me 3 silver coins. Two men, as if not taking in any of the chaos around them, started bickering about something as irrelevant as money. Upon hearing a well-known name, Media tried to drag herself over to the two fools, harboring a false hope of receiving help. Have you seen my mother?" "What if he's dead? We can't survive without his business." "Well, if he's still alive, he won't be much longer once I'm done with him." "Or Ian? And Riz?" "Stop caring about your goddamn coins." The situation was useless. Recognizing it as such, Melia instead set her attention on an injured woman, her arm stained with blood. Some of it was dried already, flaking off and mixing with the ash below, while the rest shone a bright red. Such a color was different from fire, a contrast of wet life and dry death. Melia tried her best to not focus on the open gash. She wobbled towards the center of the village, and some other people, mangled men and wounded women alike, followed her. Within the chaos, Melia could make out fragments of sentences. Said Ian was set up a makeshift. Can really help? Only one way to find. Huh? The simplest mention of Ian's name made Melia feel an ounce of relief. If Ian was alright, there was a higher chance of Enris and Mother to be alive and healthy too. Whatever bruises Melia herself had were unimportant in comparison.
Well, I guess she had a broken leg, so it's not just a bruise. She could wait to receive help, her body running on adrenaline and fear alone. First, I need to follow them. Ian is probably at his home. That means that there's a higher chance. Yes, Enris might be there too. And if the midwife is helping out, maybe Mother. Oh. Stepping to the burning wasteland that was once her village made for a difficult endeavor, not only because of the heat and smoke, but due to the debris. Melia found herself falling over a thick wooden pillar that must have once belonged to a farmhouse, and as luck would have had it, my leg, ow, wait, don't leave me. But a small group had already left her behind. Once more, Melia was alone. I need to get up. Though able to stand up again, Melia could feel the thick wetness of fresh blood staining her leg. It traveled downwards, carving a line of red across her flesh. Within it glittered dirtiness shards of glass. Dirtied shards of glass. I need to. Grabbing hold of the biggest piece with her fingers, she could feel the edges drive small cuts into her skin, but the glass came out easily enough, even with shaking hands. I can't, but... Oh! Clutching her teeth together, Melia made to pull out the remaining 2 shards. These were smaller and more difficult to grasp. Come on! She tried her best, not minding the tears that freshly fell down her face. One managed to come out in the end, the other too deeply burrowed in to get a hold of. Oh, I need to get to Ian. With her walking speed decreased even further, her walk throughout the broken village became more of a crawl. But what mattered was that she pressed onwards, even further, deep into the heart of the carnage. There where the big tree stood, ever watchful, now in flames. Even you? It seemed to screech the way the flames made the insides of the tree pop and crackle as the water evaporated. A low wail as each branch burned bright. It encompassed the single highest towering spiral of flames that engulfed the village. Here memories crumbled and perished. But Mother always said that you were our eternal tree. That you protect us, watch over us, and give us hope. Trees, unlike fantastic creatures known from fables, did not rise out of ash. Once burned, a forest could only provide new ground for what it came after. A new, clean slate, without wood to turn into pages and inscribe with knowledge. No one would make a book out of this tree's branches. It would simply leave behind a burnt-out husk, a faint resemblance of what once was. Melia stood in silence. Trying to recall memories of better times was a fruitless endeavor, so she simply stared longingly at the tree's desperate attempts to stay strong. If you see Enris, big tree... With much effort, Melia walked over to a spot mostly free from destruction and debris, and in the dirt she wrote the only word Enris had successfully managed to teach her name. Tell him Melia was here, okay? I'll plant a new seed in your place eventually, but until then, tell him I'm alive, please? And I won't forget the memories I have of you. Of course the tree did not answer her, for it was not magical. Still, she watched it burn with all the colors of the sun, thinking that maybe some things could indeed survive such sadness. Then she walked on towards the marketplace. A place that, once she reached it, was just as much a victim of whatever or of whoever had wished to cause harm to a peaceful village as the rest of it all. Ugh! Only with the difference that a lot more bodies littered the floor, and the smell of iron could be felt even over the drowning thickness of the smoke. Here stands and stores were robbed of their wares and knocked over or cut apart. Once friendly faces of shopkeepers were frozen in endless terror, eyes wide and mouths agape. To Melia, they looked as though stuck in an eternal nightmare. But looking longer, staring straighter would not wake them up.
So she averted her gaze, choosing instead to focus on the a few loiterers that tried to take whatever could help them survive this aftermath. Oh. When she came across the woodworks shop, she was surprised to see few of the wares taken, though most were destroyed or burnt instead. The knight and horse figures she had eyed with curiosity were gone, however, and there was no hint towards the shopkeeper's condition, save for a bloody handprint that could have belonged to any other wounded man. Maybe he's dead. Nothing here can help me. So she lingered in such a useless. Why she lingered in such a useless place, Melia could not understand, but she brushed her bloodied and dirtied hand against one of the wooden figures anyhow, picking it up and setting it down. Again and again, as though battling with the inner child of hers that would have rejoiced upon being given a toy. Now she let it be, and wandered further. What was left of Mr. Rowan's wares had fallen victim to whoever valued the piece of bread over their morality. Mr. Rowan? And besides, the man himself was nowhere to be found either. Only stray pieces of crumbs reminded Melia of the conversation they had shared before. It's all gone. With a sigh, she left the place behind as well. Her feet carried her, ever slowly, away from the marketplace, away from the woodworker, Rowan's bakery, the tavern, flower shop, and more. Everything was simply destroyed in various ways, and lingering only made the sweet stench of death more pronounced. Made it crawl up into her nose and stay there. Ugh, don't look. Keep moving. Looking up towards the moon instead of the ground gave comfort. The moonlight was a whiter shimmer as always, and no star shone less bright. Up in the sky, nature showed its truth. Whatever community existed could be trampled like a simple plant, and Mother Nature did not care. There was something comforting about that fact, that new knowledge of disillusions, because a being that did not show pity would equally not show any cruelty. This is not my fault. If Mother knew I was alright, she'd say the same. But you can't show me the way either. Alright, I just have to get to Ian. It's not far. It's just behind the smoke. I'm almost there. What greeted Melia's eyes was a burning building wrapped in bands of fire. It used to be a place of comfort for her, where books stood harboring stories, where the air smelled of herbs even on cold days, where a third of her life was spent. That place with a calm atmosphere and wonky shelves made from wood. Now it burned down like everything else around it, but far beside it, at a spot as far away from danger as possible, stood a makeshift place for the ill and injured. Some benches, stools, and crates to sit on. Wrinkled sheets spread out to be used as beds. Remedies and medication in small quantities. There's survivors here. Not many compared to all the people Melia had seen that had not made it, but enough to give hope in a hopeless situation. There was no unusual cheer in the group, only mild murmuring. People moaned from the pain or lay unconscious with injured family or friends by their side. One of the townspeople, still outwardly alright, ran between those less fortunate than them, bringing bandages and whatever else they could find to hopefully fix up the worst wounds. Ian? Struggling to walk over now that her goal was almost in reach, Melia felt her strength begin to ebb away. So it was the adrenaline alone that pushed her forward, that numbed the pain of her still bleeding leg. Yeah, so not only is the leg broken, she's bleeding from the shards from the glass that went to her leg. The distant silhouettes of people became clearer the nearer she got, and as she stood in front of the camp while with the complete annihilation of the village at her back, and the fragile resemblance of what was left of the future in front, her face became pale. Because there, in the middle of all, stood the person she knew. The midwife! Mouth open in hopeful shock, Melia focused on her alone, eyes hollow, glazed over. Not like the dead, but like a mother who had lost her child. Her son isn't with her, and she'd come to get me. Melia has never seen such an expression on a person's face before today, but she had heard the wails of mothers cradling the broken remains of what was once their heart, and the midwife, meant to bring life into the world, could now only do her best to stop the loss of many more. Still, Melia felt the need to call out, no matter how hoarse her voice was. "Hey, it's me, Melia." Face lifting up in recognition, and with tears pricking at her eyes, the midwife turned around, only for the newfound happiness to die out at the moment she saw the condition Melia was in. "Melia!" She rushed over, cradling Melia's cheeks with well-worked hands dirtier by the blood of others. "Oh, sweet girl, you look... but no, you're alive. Oh, your mother would be so..." She stopped herself. Ooh, that's not good. I think that means that her mom is dead, that Melia's mom is dead. And Melia stayed silent in return. There were no words that needed to be said. Her mother was not there, and neither was Enris, nor the midwife's own son. "We need to patch you up, alright? You're so strong." Her hands holding onto Melia's cheeks did not have the same warmth as her mother, but they were human and alive. It was enough to get her to choke up, and for a moment she was the child again that she had been hours prior. I... Shh. Your leg would heal. I'll make sure of it, yes? Mother, Enris." Feeling the midwife wrap her arms around her, Melia was enwrapped in a smell of smoke and sweetness. It was a hug that did not dry any tears. It existed, and that was enough. And maybe there was grief in it, shared in an unspoken way, with neither of them speaking about fears that could not be thought of as a certainty. "It's okay, shh." I need to... "What is it, child?" "Ian, the people said Ian is fetching whatever remains he can. He has done a tremendous job so far, Melia." "Then but it's burning." Not one to idly sit by, even against all odds, Melia untangled herself from the embrace of the midwife. "Melia, what?" Melia stepped away despite having to clench her teeth as she did so. "I need to... If I can't see Ian, then Enris... Maybe he knows... What if he knows something? I'm sorry. Melia." But against the protests of the midwife, Melia limped away from the makeshift camp. The woman meant to follow her, only to be held back by the cruelty of the overall situation. "Midwife! My wife! I can't feel her pulse." Pulse. Jesus Christ, I'm reading too much. "Melia, I'm coming." Reluctantly, she left the young girl behind, but not before giving her a last glance, praying for her safety. The pain in Melia's leg, throbbing and irksome, could wait. It had to. For what it was worth, she did not follow. Most probably due to the other people still in need of help. Inwardly, Melia sent a myriad of apologies into the heavens, but right now she needed to breach the burning sanctuary. Coming closer towards it, the stench of burning wood became overwhelming once more. No matter. She shielded her nose and mouth with her dirtied sleeve and approached the house. Now almost within her grasp, the open door stood like a welcoming arch into a hellscape. "Ian? Ian, it's me, Melia. Ian? Huh?" Crash. Through the embrace of endless flames, kissed until it fell to its knees, the house gave in to death. A shocking, all-encompassing return to the earth, because there were no pillars left to defend the will to withstand gravity. And so, it fell. And it was different from a tree branch breaking, different from a whole tree set alight, because it housed precious life, even yet. "Ian!" Melia could only shield herself from the impact, could only scream the smoke from her lungs, but dragons did not exist here. There was nothing burning in her soul. It was only burning down, all of it. And she did not feel her feet carrying her forward. It did not notice the flames that yearned to touch her skin. 1 second, let me just lower the volume a little bit, because it just went a bit too high. Yeah. The water was black and broken, and in the constricting darkness a frail voice whimpered, "Help
Someone.
No smoke could cloud her memory. Ian? It came from within the heated hell that brought her to her knees. So Amelia crawled towards the voice, kept company only by the flames that managed to light up what broken pieces could receive attention, and some of them framed a man, crushed, under debris and destruction and everything else that was dying. Ian, I can get you out of there. I just. Okay, let's see. Oh, sorry, no, not that. Let's save here. Try to remove the debris, try to drag Ian out. Let's try to remove the debris. Made points. There was a saying, leave no stone unturned, so Amelia grabbed hold on charcoaled wood and sticks and stones, frail hands blackened and shaking. Ugh. There was too much, too heavy, too large. It only shifted the weight, giving the dying man discomfort. No need. Stop, please. So she did. What was left to do was cry. Amelia wanted to feel the tears down her cheeks, washing up the dirt and grime and leaving salt and a hollow feeling behind. But for whatever reason, none of them would come. So Amelia simply hiccuped, frantically holding on to his tattered shirt like a lifeline. Ian, I need to. We can't just leave you here. You will have to, and go on living, alright? He found her hand and held them tightly. Her hands and held them tightly. No dirt nor grime mattered. The blood felt cold and lifeless as it stained her, and the objects he placed onto her palm. What? Your ring? A treasure, not often spoken about but for all to see. An act of love for someone else, an endless band meant to last a lifetime, and in a way, it did. Keep it. I need to. People should not spit out blood. Their lips should not stain dark red. Ian could not choke on his own life. Should not choke on his own life, but he did. Enris? What about Enris? Is he? Amelia, listen. I am Ian. Enris is. The hand in hers grew weaker until it fell, leaving the ring behind, precious metal painted in red. Enris is? What is Enris? Ian? You need to say something. Anything. Enris is? And a single breath. One inhale, one exhale, and all was still. So Ian died. Oh, and that was it. End of the demo. Wow, that was kind of an abrupt ending. An abrupt ending with Ian's death. We don't know where Amelia's mother is. Probably she's dead. Maybe she's not. Maybe she was taken. And Enris, I'm hoping Enris is alive. But that was it, everyone. Yeah, that was 2 hours almost. 2 hours of Colors of Fate. A pretty beefy prologue, I gotta say. Which is, great. Because there's, the story has a pretty steady, slow and steady pace to it, I guess. Hopefully, there's gonna be more, things are gonna, speed up a little bit later on to find out what's happened with the others, what happened to the village, who burnt it, what went on there. Maybe a dragon, a raid, who knows? We'll have to see. But for now, that was everyone. That was the Colors of Fate prologue. If you want to check it out yourself, or you want to show it to someone who might be interested in it, you can find this prologue on itch.io. It's available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It's available for free, so just get it there. Try it out, maybe listen to feedback, say what you like, what you didn't like, and hopefully you'll get to see more Colors of Fate soon. Maybe there's going to be, a Steam page, also put up so we can wishlist the game. But for now, that was it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up real quick, and if you like what I do here, consider subscribing. Check out the back catalog, check out YouTube, youtube.com/cryptichybrid, check out BitChute, bitchute.com/cryptichybrid. Subscribe on both channels if you want to see the cool games that I cover. And after that, please just take half a minute to see the ways through which you can support me financially so I can continue doing gaming coverage and more for a very long time. You can either give me a direct donation through PayPal. There's a PayPal link in the description. There's a Paystring link if you want to donate cryptocurrency. You know, any bit helps. You can also donate BATs, basic attention tokens, if you use the Brave browser. And check out any video of mine on YouTube or any post that I make on Twitter, @cryptichybrid, by the way. Follow me there. And there's also affiliate links. You know, at the very least, use the Humble Store one, because I think that seems to be the more popular one. A lot of people use it. You can, you know, get you don't pay anything extra if you use that affiliate link for the Humble Store, but you do tell that store to send me a small percentage of the money you spend there. So that would be awesome. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. Locals.com stuff coming soon. Until the next time we see each other, thanks again for watching, and have an awesome day.